Good evening, fellow ghouls and specters alike. Your ghost host with the most, Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5, here to engage in some haunted holiday hijinks by trudging through the catacombs and dusting off the cobwebs to recount a spooky selection of Halloween classics.
So, light the jack-o'-lanterns, suit up, and grab the candy dish as we revive and recount tonight's spooky selection, Dracula, 1931. All right, honestly, Dragon, I'm kind of over the whole over-the-top maniacal laughing. I think that just cutting it short is going to be the go-to now. I've done so many forms of the maniacal laugh at this point. I don't even know where to go from here. So, all right, short maniacal laugh, mwahaha, and so on and so forth. So Dragon, seasonal shenanigans is coming up in Christmas time. This is haunted holiday hijinks. Good start, Tiki. Good start. All right. So, Dragon will finally get into the Universal monsters. This is something that I've been wanting to get to for years now. Starting with Dracula, we're ending with a big one. So, Dragon, let's get right into it. Dracula, of course, being the first of the, I would say, of the monster-verse movies. Like, of course, Universal did stuff like Hunchback before that. I'm sure you'll get into it, but this was kind of the first one that kind of set the stage for the cinematic universe, if you will. And Dragon, I like this movie a lot. Obviously, you can't go wrong with Bela Lugosi. You can't go wrong with Dwight Frye. Dragon, I gotta tell you, rewatching this thing, pretty much everything else besides those two actors and the production design, I don't know, Dragon. This is it's funny because I feel like the Universal monster movies, they definitely get a lot more refined after this, because this very much feels like it was based on not just the Bram Stoker novel, but specifically the play. And Dragon, my God, this feels like a play. Oh man, the last half of this movie really drags. I don't know. I was kind of caught off guard by it's there's certainly memorable highlights in there, specifically the Dwight Frye stuff. But man, Dragon, our three main protagonists, Jonathan Harker, my God, I mean, what a nothing of a protagonist, Dragon. I don't know, man. I really feel like this is a film that's kind of carried by its leads. It's atmospheric as hell. I think it still holds up in that regard. Bela Lugosi obviously is incredible. I honestly think Dwight Frye might be my favorite performance in the whole movie, even better than Bela. We'll get into that. I really, upon rewatch, he was really the main standout of this thing. But yeah, Dragon, all the stuff with Van Helsing and the Harkers, it just didn't do it for me this time around, man. It kind of feels like a tale of two movies in that regard. What do you think?
Yeah, we're pretty much. I'd extend it a little bit to include Van Helsing in the good category. We're pretty simpatico.
Okay.
So so I guess it's the phrase that otherwise. So look, there's nothing like the Universal horror classics. I mean, Lugosi is Dracula. I mean, this is why the Tim Burton Ed Wood movie works as well as it does. It's Bela Lugosi as Dracula. Again, it's the power even a man pretending to be Bela Lugosi can convey. With Martin Landau. So yeah, this film absolutely had a huge impact on the horror genre. I mean, even in its infancy, this movie was big. It was certainly big, and I think when you look at this film, it's the original Dracula is all about the ambiance and the atmosphere, and the movie itself is very much built around the monster in the build-up rather than the story, and I think that comes through where it's very much a performance piece. It's all about Dracula was the big you're not going to really remember all the other stuff outside of, okay, well, he goes up against a guy named Van Helsing. That's, that's pretty much it. And then you have that crazy guy who eats the rats. Eats the spiders, eats the rats, that guy. So yeah, I mean, I look at it this way. I think it holds up with establishing Dracula, but definitely not as much as I had hoped. This was the beginning after all. So again, a little trial and error, and kind of the stumbling footsteps at the top. But again, we're hitting the tone of the Universal horror movie, and the tone is there. It's just not really not the rewatchability. I think is very marred. Let's say.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah, I
like, it really is, like, this movie's literally, like, it's 90 years old this year, so it's like, I think we should cut it some slack as far as, like, obviously it's not going to have the pacing of a modern movie, so.
That's what I'm saying. There was no, kind of thing to compare it to at that time.
Yeah,
this is how we start, so we can't really hold that against it, but, like,
just airing on years later with the one we're going to talk about for the finale, though, Dragon, I really think they just perfected the formula.
Yeah, so that one again, I'm interested to see it because it's been a while since I've seen that one. How that one's going to hold up? That's kind of in the same camp year-wise, so we'll see what happens. All right, so let me hit you with some background. Again, this is a classic. We gotta go kind of appreciate the history on this puppy. All right, so 1897, Bram Stoker, he writes the Dracula novel. Goes over big. Basically, the Dracula book based on, Vlad the Impaler, kind of that along with the vampire lore and, the vampire legends kind of mixed together. What if Vlad the Impaler absolutely was a vampire? It's pretty much where Dracula comes from. So over the years, there were adaptations that mainly ended up on the stage, got a lot of buzz, and eventually, 1922 led to a vampire movie. Not
Nosferatu.
Nosferatu, yeah, and...
what are you doing stealing the novel's premise without officially getting the rights?
Yeah. So there was some people weren't happy legally speaking. There was a lot. There was a big kind of legal
that little scamp.
Yep. Nosferatu. Stop playing with those lights, you little scamp. We gotta work with, we gotta cut down on that energy bill. Come on, man.
Oh God.
In a spooky castle, your little Caligari lights. Come on. All right.
So Greg, you mentioned that came out in 1922. Next year it'll be 100 years old. Yeah, just put a pin in that, folks, until next year. Just planting seeds.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, especially the younger generation, they don't realize that Nosferatu came before Dracula.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, anyway, so the point being, so there was a little bit of a toss-up with Nosferatu, and this kind of led the producer and founder of Universal. I believe I forget if he's like the main founder, if it was him and somebody else, but Carl Lemley, one of the head honchos who founded Universal.
He was definitely the main founder, as far as I know. I did a whole high school report on him, so...
So Carl Lemley, who basically, I believe it was, 1915s when he founded Universal. So way back when he founded Universal, and basically he kind of heard about this toss. Okay, well, I want to make a Dracula. I want to adapt Dracula. I want to make sure I get all the proper clearances and everything, so I don't have to worry about any of that happening. So he did that, and essentially it was, he was looking for properties to adapt for the Universal brand originally. And this is just showing how far back this goes, folks, because this is in work in progress for many years. They're in the silent era. This is originally supposed to be a silent movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, time passes, and the Universal, they've kind of dipped their toe in horror and kind of horror things alike. And you have, the Hunchback of Notre Dame, and you have, Phantom of the Opera. They go over big, of course, with the big draw being the great Lon Chaney Sr. Boy, oh boy, Lon Chaney. So Lon Chaney, because he was the big draw, he was the big makeup guy, of course, very famously, Man of a Thousand Faces. He, they wanted him for the role, but because things took so long, poor Lon Chaney, he passed in 1930, year before they make the movie. So they can't get him. So instead, you got Lugosi. He's involved in the stage show for Dracula, and Lugosi, fascinating guy in his own right. But just to tell you something interesting about him, he learned English phonetically. I did not know this. He learned English phonetically because he was very, very deeply Hungarian, kind of as he crossed over stateside. So basically, that's he kind of learned his way through New Orleans to New York in a sense, in terms of how he kind of got the in terms of how he got the mannerisms down, how he kind of repeated back the lines. That's essentially how he kind of learned the language, I assume. Anyway, so of course he had the very iconic Hungarian accent, very much a very memorable Dracula. So they're making the movies. Hey, let's get this guy. Let's get one of the guys from the productions that are kind of sweeping the nation right now. Put him on this. They had a director who I think kind of shows in the direction if you look at it. Todd Browning. Todd Browning. He was making the leap to talkies, and I think it shows because there's a lot of trepidation. Okay, this is kind of a new thing we're doing. We're doing the talkies, and also we are. Not a lot of theaters are going to have the sound equipment necessary, so there's going to be definitely an impairment going on here, and also I like to assume that perhaps that's why there's so many kind of pauses in between scenes, in between dialogue, because we need to have a space in there in case we need to adapt to the talkie.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it really, it's probably partly that, probably just partly the fact that, it is a 90-year-old movie and editing was way different back then.
Yeah, it's hard to tell, but here's the two things before I get to the thing you're really gonna like. So the guy played Van Helsing, Ed von Sloan. He is also from the stage version of Dracula with Lugosi. And fun fact, he and Dwight Frye, they worked together on, I believe, a comedy before this. They had worked together previously on something else. So yeah, it's kind of a. I think
both of those actors are people that I see on movie posters all the time together from that era. Maybe not necessarily together, but they appear and they're kind of like the house actors of the era.
Yeah. Again, I would argue I think they're the trifecta of the movie. They're the triangle that makes the movie work. In performance-wise, I think those three are definitely our big go-tos. Kind of bring the strength of the film. So, anyways, here's the thing you're really gonna like. So, I don't know if you're aware of that, but I don't know why I'm assuming you probably know about this. You know about the Spanish version.
Oh yeah, sure.
Good. Oh yes, of course. For the folks out there is a Spanish version.
It is a better shot version. It is a more cinematic movie by all intents and purposes.
It's so crazy how that works out because it is shot more artfully. I mean, there's no Lugosi.
More cinematic movie with a way less compelling cast.
That's the thing is that Lugosi not in it, so clearly we're missing a very big key component, but everything else seems, on first glance, to be pretty much improved. Hey, the pacing's
it was the same sets. I forget exactly what the reason was that it came about.
Well, again, Tiki, that was because of the silent movie thing, where overseas, just other parts of the globe, they wanted to be able to have sound without just doing a talkie when you don't have, the English-speaking countries. So we want a Spanish version of it so people can enjoy it there, but we don't want it to be a silent film. So we're just gonna, instead of just dubbing it, they really did not want to dub it. Says, let's do a Spanish version. They did.
I mean, God, you would never see something like that go down these days.
I mean, it's crazy, right? I mean, this is like a practice more for the adaptations of sitcoms across the globe. Everybody loves Raymond or The Nanny when they kind of take it to Russia and other places, but
even then, they're not literally using the same sets.
Yeah, that's true. Exactly. You got to do it from the ground up. This is okay, well, we're gonna do production of friggin'. It's called The Spaniards. But it's just crazy because if you look at any clip of that in film, it's more energized. We have some really great shot composition. Just everything kind of comes together better. I wish why can't
it feels less like a play, more like a movie. If we could just have a fan edit where it's we get the shot compositions with the performances, it'd be perfect.
If you just take the three key performances and put them in this.
Yeah.
So as you know, film becomes iconic. Sadly, Stoker, he never lived to see any of the adaptations, both the play or the film, because he died in 1912. And really fun fact here, Lugosi, he's only played Dracula twice.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Dracula, which we're talking about, and something we talked about before, the great Abbott Costello, Meet Frankenstein, which he's wonderful in. So, yeah.
All right. So, let's get right to it, Dragon. So first of all, I want to highlight a couple key differences between the book and the movie, because I really think in an interesting way, this is going to be a really weird comparison, but the Universal monster movies and Disney fairy tales are very similar to each other.
That is a weird comparison too. You're gonna
Well,
need the
think
guy.
about it though. Think about it though. It's like with both Universal monster movies and with the Disney fairy tales, they're taking like these very, I mean, I guess the book, was a little bit more contemporary, but still, it's like I feel like the book was probably about as contemporary as something like Alice in Wonderland was back in the 30s. So it's like, but anyways, it's like if you think about it, what they're doing is they're just kind of taking the source material that's a lot more dark, a lot more gothic, and really kind of like Hollywoodizing it. Dragon in the book, Dracula is not sexy whatsoever. He is
No, he's not. No,
he's
he's
an
an ugly
old
dude.
like he's got like a long mustache like so. That's one thing I want to hit on right off the bat is Bela Lugosi kind of like he kind of set the standard for it would kind of morph into like the Count Chocula, Adam Sandler, Dracula mold, but like really he started, it's like he was like the James Bond of his era with the sex appeal. It's
He
like
was. Then like in the 70s, you get Frank
this guy was
Langella.
probably like the most suave character that we've ever seen on screen up until that point.
You remember the Frank Langella Dracula?
Ooh, which movie?
Well, I'm thinking. I guess it's the first one, the one from '79.
No, I don't.
Yeah, yeah. He's they really amped up the
Is that
sensuality.
Hammer?
You know what? I'm not sure if it's Hammer because Hammer. When I think Hammer, I think Christopher Lee. So I don't know if it is.
Yeah, because I'm missing I haven't really seen any of the Hammer movies.
I want to say Hammer's in the '80s. This was like probably the '70s. Again, this is '79, so I don't know if that bleeds into Hammer or not. But yeah, it's like they had that. They really amped up the sensuality there for like Langella. He's like. Oh my God! He's in heat. You can feel it.
It's like, that's the thing, though. It's like that modern image. It's like I don't want to just be like, oh, Dracula's sexy right off the bat, But like that modern image of Dracula, it really did kind of come through like right off the bat with this movie. It was a key change to the character.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about Renfield.
Yeah.
Because I really feel like he's just such a great kind of like, of course, I love that it subverts the narrative where it's like it starts with him and Dragon. This guy, he's pretty much like the freaking brother from the Jungle Cruise, right? Where it's like he's all prim and proper and polite, and he wants, he's just trying not to offend people, but he wants to get to where he's going, and then shit takes a turn with him really quick.
Yes, it does. As I said, I think Dwight Fry, he's a big part of the triangle of this movie that works. And it's funny. I completely forgot because over the years, the names, as we can tell with other iconic, Universal properties, the name, there's like that stupid Mandela effect of like, because of the latter sequels, you kind of retroactively think, oh, this character's always had this name, like, with Fritz the Eagle or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know if this happened with Renfield over the years, but because traditionally Dracula has the henchman who is not necessarily a vampire, but he is hypnotized.
Yeah.
Because he needs a guy to do his day-to-day, daylight stuff. Regardless, Peter, there was a parody of Dracula. I believe the Zucker brothers did. The Naked Gun guys, the airplane guys. It's called Dracula Dead and Loving It with Leslie Nielsen playing Dracula, and Peter McNichol he plays Renfield, at least the Renfield type. So every time I watch, it's like, oh my God, this is the Peter McNichol character. This is awesome. The parody.
I just think that both performances, they really nail it in their own way. I mean, Lugosi with that stare, man. I mean, on the rewatch, that was like the main thing about Lugosi's performance that really captivated me was that stare. I mean, it's like those lighting, eyes.
The lighting contrast is so good between you. I like a good black and white kind of like contrast, and that's just great. We have like that piercing light on to emphasize the hypnotic stare, like that. Yeah, that's.
And then of course that mixed with, I feel like Dwight Fry is of course very much going for like a more classical kind of like loud kind of like playing to the rafters type of performance.
Yeah, a little very Peter Lorre-esque, kind of.
Oh yeah, he is pretty much like the proto Peter Lorre in a lot of ways.
Exactly. Again, he's playing madness really well, and of course, again, like Renfield is just an excellent way to start the movie, where he's going in there and he's warned by the Transylvanians, beware Castle Dracula. And
those Transylvanians, man, it's a great start to the movie. It's so foreboding. It's like they really want nothing to do with that place whatsoever.
I love the cross. Or the cross is like, for your mother's sake, wear the cross.
Okay, and then of course we get one of the most iconic entrances in cinematic history. Dragon, let's talk about the fact that this movie has no score outside of Swan Lake.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it is kind of. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I guess we only do this one.
Got Swan Lake Overture, and then I think, like, you know, in that opera section, there's like a brief piece of music that's used, but other than that, it's all you know, it's all just natural sounds.
I mean, Swan Lake really is like the Dracula theme. I love how
it's also the Mummy theme.
Really? Is it the Mummy theme?
Yeah, the Mummy opening credits have the exact same theme.
Huh.
So it's almost kind of like the Universal Monsters theme in general.
It's not bad, but again, I like it being specified for Dracula. I like that he has like kind of that operatic kind of thing going. I don't know, it's nice. Anyway, but it's time to hit.
But yeah, that entrance, man. One of the things of course, we have those sound effects with the wind blowing outside. The Gothic castle. You know, the great production design. And one of the things I really zeroed in on with the entrance this time was just how slow it happens. You know, how we see Dracula like coming down those stairs, like,
and Renfield doesn't see him.
Yeah, a good like half minute before we get that iconic line. And Dragon, of course, everyone quotes the "I am Dracula," but for me, for my money, one of the all-time greatest lines in cinematic history is "Listen to them, children of the night. What music they make." That's
good.
I love that line so much. I have ever since I was a kid. I just think it's so evocative.
Yeah, I have the easier line, but it's all I love it as well. It's very simple. It's like that great tongue in cheek. It's just that great of all the people to say this line, he should just like, I don't drink wine.
Yeah,
because again, it's basically him warning him, hey.
Oh God, awesome. Dragon! You see, this was back in the days of storytelling where if someone suspicious presented you a drink, you wouldn't think twice about it.
Yeah, but you know, I love think about this thing. Completely forgot about this on the rewatch. So we build to that grand entrance so interestingly, where we have Dracula as the cabbie.
Oh yeah! Oh, I love that. That's another like. Basically, every moment with Bela Lugosi in this movie is iconic, and that is one of those shots that is iconic.
Yeah, I wish we gave him a bigger hat to kind of so it's like, well, I know he didn't get a good look at the driver, so it's fine. But it's like, if he had a bigger hat, it would have been like we.
But, you know, I love the setup of him looking out the window, and there's the bat flying between.
Yes, that is awesome. So here's the thing: so you got to remember this again, because I'm so ingrained with Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein, which again works because it's the second time he ever played the character, so we're good. It's the other half of the combination, but. Here's the thing. So in the 50s, we had the animation for the bat transformation. This is the very beginning of it. We did not have that. So it's only the bat, which I found really interesting. We have this great scene later on where it's like, Ryan, what's her name? Is it Mimi?
Nina. Yeah.
Right. Yes, Mina. So Nina. Yeah, Mina.
No. N.
Yeah, I'm saying Mina.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I think you're... My bad. I was hearing M. I'm sorry, Dragon. Go ahead.
Anyway, so when Mina is here, is conversing with a bat, and I love that adds to like a little of ambiguity where whenever there's a bat in the scene, it could be one of Dracula's wives, it could be Dracula, it could just be a bat for all you know. I just love that. But yeah, this just leads to this great ominous thing where, oh my God, the driver's disappeared, and you're watching this for the first time, and then then he makes his appearance, and it's like, see how clever is the audience? They're going to make the connection that he transforms into a bat. So there you go. Oh yeah.
What do you think of the wives just in general? Because honestly, I don't really think they have much of a presence in the movie.
Okay, well let me hit you with something. This is going to bleed into the wives thing. So.
Kind of like a very prototypical, of course, Universal, they would have the Bride of Frankenstein, which is one of the most iconic wives in all of cinematic history. But I don't know, stepping stones to get there, I think.
Sure, yes. And I think it's also, again, it's like his own, children of the night, so to speak, where it's specifically. So let me bridge into this. So I think the strongest element of the plot that we have represented is through Renfield. I think we're missing a detail or two, but overall, he brings us the strongest kind of plot element that I really appreciate. We're okay.
He
Renfield's
definitely has the biggest character arc, yeah.
Yeah, as a character arc, but I'm just saying, even just as he services the plot, like how Dracula gets from point A to point B, like he serves a really good role. I wish we knew a little bit more of why he went from point A to point B, but regardless, it said Renfield's a real estate agent who sold him the Carfax Abbey land, which basically brings us in conjunction with Nina and company and everything, which I assume is Dracula's goal. I wish we specified what exactly Dracula's goal was, but I love that that's why he needed Renfield. We have that big moment where the wives come over to feast on him, and he says, no, because he needs him alive for the plan. I really love that. So again, it's a really good plot point. I want to say what's happening, and I don't know this because again, the movie doesn't really tell you because it was 1931. They weren't concerned with. No one's going to look back on this years from now and poke all these holes in it. I just wish I like to assume my headcanon is that okay, Dracula's relocating and he's going to create like a new harem of wives, probably starting with this doctor's daughter.
Yeah,
because he very calculatedly, he very
my whole thing for the wives not really having much of a presence is just simply because they don't really. They're literally like I don't even want to call them a plot device. They're more kind of like visual exposition in a way.
Yeah, it's just the aesthetic to show him that he's again Dracula definitely kind of a ladies' man, and again I think what may have been the intent is like okay, so perhaps this is his grand design in our story that he's going to just acquire more of these women wherever he goes. Perhaps I guess like I think I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, so of course we have now one thing I should note about the censorship, Dragon. Anytime anything remotely violent happens in this movie, they cut away, but it's like I think it's pretty damn effective. I mean, it is noticeable, but I don't know. I think they use it to their advantage sometimes.
Yeah, they actually went back and they when Dracula gets killed, they went back and they added in the shrieks and like ah.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of ADR sound effects throughout the whole movie. Sure.
Yeah. What I'm saying is they've added that back in there because originally they cut it out for censorship.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah, so when the movie first happened, I'm guessing, when it first came out, they were told to not have, they take that out, and now, like years later, they put it back in.
All right.
Because we're big boys.
There's
now.
Also a version of the movie that has a score, too. Did you know about that?
I did not know that.
Philip Glass did a score for it back in the 90s.
Okay.
I think it was for like a DVD release or something. Anyways.
All right. So again, as we kind of hit already, it's about the ambiance and the build-up, which I think we do effectively do in kind of the first act. Where we set up. Okay.
The first act I think is easily the best act of this film, like probably by a pretty wide margin, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, it's Act 1, it has this, this thing. We've established the scary control and power of Dracula, of this immortal force, which is really cool. And like, I love that even before we really get into the vampire stuff, like when he's like biting people, like there's a dread and there's a control, like what he does to Renfield at the top, where it's like just seeing how he lured that poor sap in. It's like, oh, so that was the really effective use of Renfield. Like, oh god, he was just he's to demonstrate Dracula's
Renfield is a pretty minor character in the original book, so I think it was a really smart adaptation choice to kind of use him in that way.
I forget it. Let me ask you, do you recall if Renfield was exactly the guy's name, or are you referring to the character that they regard?
Oh god, I couldn't tell you, but basically from what I know of in the book, Dracula kind of has like an Igor-like assistant, but they don't really go into much detail about him going crazy or having the split personality or anything.
Gotcha. Here's something I wish they clarified with Renfield. I wonder if, tell me if this bothers you. I'm assuming he was not initially bitten, but he was just hypnotized, and he thinks he wants the bloodlust. Like, is that like I don't know if he actually is turned into a vampire or not.
Dragon, I that's the thing. It's like with this movie, I feel like, obviously, like, again, I'm sorry to keep going back to this argument, but it's a 90-year-old movie, and, we weren't really, we don't really establish rules in these types of films the same way we do now, and this movie literally kind of wrote the groundwork for the modern vampire rules, so, I honestly don't know. I couldn't tell you. I just kind of go with it.
We have that really effective.
I don't really consider it a whole. I just consider it kind of like fairy tale logic, if you will.
Okay. Well, we have that scene on the schooner, on the boat, which I forgot.
Oh
Like,
God,
yeah,
how
Roger,
iconic is that fucking shot of him walking up that ramp, man?
it's great, and I love the idea Dracula on this ship. Just he's doomed the boat. He has doomed that boat just being there. And logically, Dracula does have to get from point A to point B. So yes, he would have to ride a boat. Apparently, I think it was like a plane or something. One of the other iterations. I don't know if it was the book or the play or whatnot.
I'm on a boat, Nina Harker. Take a look at me. Monkey will appreciate that one. Go ahead, Dragon. I'm sorry.
Anyway. Yes, so your point being we have all this natural destruction, so there's kind of like a causal, like, he's just kind of doomed the boat. Now if they made this movie, Dracula would have feasted on everyone on the boat. But still, it's the fact that he's there and things are just going. It's like kind of symbolic. Anyway, so again, our meat puppet here, Mr. Renfield, he's just the bloodlust on the boat. He's eating the spiders and the rats. He's
oh
like,
my God, I
this.
love the spider speech. Jesus Christ.
Yes, and the whole just later. Do you mean like the rats at the end, or do you mean like when they're literally taking Spider away from them?
No, when he's talking about like when I forget exactly where it is, but the scene where he's talking about like how spiders are so much more desirable to eat because they're bigger.
Right. But yeah, it's just like this guy. There's a crazy again the faces that Dwight Frye makes in this film. Just like
Dragon, I really think he's toe to toe with Lugosi. I mean, Lugosi has the charm, but he has the insanity in spades.
I mean, I'll tell you what's just that true crime, Tiki. It's just the fact that both Lugosi and Frye, their careers are really boxed after this movie. But it's such a shame because they did such a great job. Like they were locked into they only play these types, and that's it. All right, let's see. So and again, just like after we're now in London. So I love it. The instant after everything we've set up through these characters, through Renfield and Dracula and the journey getting there, and all the dread and the menace, and like look how manipulative he is. Just the fact that then things kind of we have a bit of a social commentary going on, which I really appreciate. We're okay. So again, the cool Connery kind of Bond factor, if you will, like the classiness, the sexy classiness of our Dracula. He's adorned in affluence. He's walking around London in a top hat. As he enters, and we have this poor girl selling flowers, and he feasts on her, and no one bats an eye. And I thought that's what I'm saying. It's like the fact that no one cares for the underclass. It's just the affluent. There's a power to the affluent. And especially given who this guy is and how long he's been around, like he knows I can do anything I want. It's almost like a Jack the Ripper quality in London.
Oh, it's very much a Jack the Ripper quality for sure, with that scene in particular.
But it's just so seamless and just like so casual. That's the thing that really gets me about it. He's on his way to do something, but you know what? I'm a little hungry. I'm a little pecky.
Right.
Little snack. No one's gonna know.
Basically, his equivalent to making an impromptu stop at McDonald's.
And again, I love how seemingly I wish we put 90 years old. I get it, but I just wish there's a little more polish on. Hey, Mr. C-word. Hey, let's what a coincidence. I have bought the land next to your place. We should have a visit. I just wish we knew why, but he's like, hey, we're in the neighborhood. I'm targeting your daughter, I guess.
And unfortunately, Dragon, that moment that you just mentioned is pretty much like where the movie peaks, in my opinion.
Yeah, so the pacing, I think, is the biggest detriment to the film.
Oh, big time, Dragon. Oh, the last 20 minutes of this film was a slog.
See, Act 1 has good stuff in it, so the pacing it doesn't encumber it. We're okay, at least we're getting really good stuff in Act 1. But then Act 2 is
honestly, genuinely, I think the pacing in Act 1, like even held up to modern standards. I mean, the dialogue is a little stilted, but other than that, I think it's pretty damn well paced from a storytelling point of view.
Let me put it this way. You're right about, storytelling-wise, yes. But I'm just saying, like, the way that those scenes are edited, there's, like, a lot of pauses in those.
Yeah, sure.
But again, you're getting ambiance out of it, and, like, the setting and the castle and everything. So you get something out of it. So Act 1 at least has that cushion going on. Act 2 does not have that luxury.
Mm-hmm.
Act 2 is just a lot of so we're meeting a bunch of the rich people, fancy houses.
Yeah.
Oh boy, yeah. It's
Dragon,
honestly,
I don't know, man. I don't even I don't want to like shit on this too much, but it really does, like, it kind of falls off a cliff.
Well, let me...
I hate to say that because it's such an iconic movie, but it's like, I don't know, like at about the halfway point in this film, I just stopped enjoying myself to a certain extent.
Honestly, it disrupts the flow, you know, and
Yeah.
again, like the problem is there's a lot of setup with Dracula. Just we don't really get the payoff until I'd estimate like the last 12 to 15 minutes of the movie. That's when things pick up. Like that's where we do like, okay, here's the payoff of all the stuff we've.
But even then, it's a very awkwardly paced finale. Like even in the finale, it's like things are happening, but it's still kind of awkward.
I mean, obviously, you know, the end is good, but getting there's like, okay, so Dracula just has to take a nap. It's what it is. It's like Dracula has to rest because I assume because daylight. It's really hard to convey daylight in black and white. At least back then during this.
That's a problem for this movie. Yeah.
Yeah. So that going on. But let me tell you what does help Act 2, though. Here's I think the saving grace of Act 2 is Van Helsing. I think Van Helsing on the whole, mainly he picks up in Act 3. I'll be honest. Even saying that, I mean, the point is we introduced Van Helsing in Act 2. I mean, I like Van Helsing as a character in contrast to Dracula. Again, I love these two being at odds with each other. I think there's like a great... I love that Dracula has an equal in Van Helsing, a mortal equal. And I really like...
I think you're a little bit more high on him than I am. Like, I think the performance is fine, but I don't think it holds a candle to either of the main two.
Well, I'm saying the other two don't really outside of outside of Act 1, and really in that, and not even all of Act 1, just the top of Act 1, where they have that that one scene together. Dracula doesn't really have a lot to do with
no.
Yeah, he doesn't. It's great, but I'm saying like I think we give him and Van Helsing some meaty scenes though, where it's like he has this. There's this line he has. Tiki. I think it's like for me one of the best kind of written lines in the movie. Not the iconic quotable line, mind you, but it's great. Where he says, sorry, so let me. It's essentially he says about Mina, where like my blood runs in her veins, and soon she will be like she will live like me for centuries. Something like that, and basically just kind of like drawing the lines and like you've lost. Okay, you have no way of winning this. She's it's too late. I don't know. It's like the idea of like this is going to sound like a weird comparison, but maybe not as weird as the Disney fairy tale thing from earlier. It was sound, but just a little out of left field when you say it out of context. I got kind of a Ra's al Ghul vibe with Lugosi's Dracula here.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of helps with the fact they dress the same, but it's kind of.
Dragon, my main problem with Van Helsing though is just that, like at the end of the day, it kind of just becomes repetitive.
I guess I can.
I really don't see the compellingness that you're laying out there. I really don't. I'm sorry. I genuinely wanted to, but like for me, it's just kind of like Van Helsing's just kind of like trying to convince people that Dracula's dangerous, and then they don't listen to him until it's too late. And
well, that part's repetitive. I'm just saying when he has a scene with the big Kahuna himself, I think that's when it gets compelling. But you're right, though; it does get repetitive up to that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But man, the Harkers just sink this movie. I mean, they don't sink it because it's a classic, but it's like, God, I don't know, man. Jonathan Harker. Let's talk about him and how fucking cardboard box he is, because I was honestly kind of thrown off by just how boring this character is.
Yeah, honestly, I really just have nothing with Jonathan Harker. He's a non-character in this. He's the fiance. He's the nameless fiance.
Dragon, here's the thing. At first I was kind of like interested, like, oh, okay, like Dracula's going after a married woman. Like, let's see how this plays out. Is it going to be kind of like a Phantom of the Opera style, like romantic rivalry? No, not really.
The moment Van Helsing was introduced, I was completely assuaged. Okay, yeah, this Harker guy, he's nothing. He's not.
Yeah.
He's just the fiance who we're going to attack.
He doesn't even kill the movie. He's just a non-factor.
Yeah. I mean, this is what I'm saying. This is why I think, again, everything building up to when Van Helsing is like directly going up against the guy is okay. I'm going to convince these stupid people that we're actually dealing with a vampire, and it's like, and Harker's role is to basically say, no, I don't want to send her away, no, or like sorry, let me
It's
reverse
like, honestly, by the end of the movie, where it's like Harker, it's like Van Helsing does, he does drive the stake through the heart, which is awesome. But it's like, at the end of the movie, it's kind of like Harker just rescuing Nina, and they just kind of walk up the staircase together, and that rings so hollow for me, Dragon.
I mean, I can't remember
so
which
hollow for me, because it's just like, this is not the guy that we like. Literally the two most compelling characters in the movie die before the finale. It's just, I don't know.
I'll tell you, Tiki, the thing, I don't know, I forget if it was supposed to be this way, then they changed it for the ending of the movie, or if there was any other versions, like in the book or the play, that had it go this way or not. But I heard, and I assumed it was going to end this way, because it's been forever since I've seen the movie. I assumed we were going to have to kill her too, and maybe that would give a little bit of a sobering point to Harker, like, oh god, I had to drive the stake through her too. Yeah. But I know they talked about that. I don't know if it was like because it was like in some of the other versions, but part of me thinks that maybe we should have gone that way, because I'm watching the movie and I'm thinking, oh, is there gonna be like kind of a ... of like, is she still like a vampire? Did she fake the mutual death, or like no? And of course, again, because you didn't figure out any of the rules.
Again, with the next one that we're covering, I feel like that next one with the ending has a lot more moral ambiguity.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. We don't have that here, where I thought because of that, maybe we had it here too.
Like, this one, like I said, it's like, it's kind of like, okay, Harker, he's the hero who gets the girl in the end. It's like, what? Like,
let me tell you, Harker has one good scene in the movie, just one. Okay, the one good scene, and again, this is turning that kind of like that.
Is it the scene where he interacts with Dracula, perhaps?
No, it's not it. No, it's the it's basically in that 12 to 15 minute thing towards the end where actually things happen. So Mina, after she's been turned, she has a scene with her fiance, and basically there's the tension there of like, oh god, we know that she's been turned, but Harker doesn't. And then the bat flies by, which we have at this point we know, okay, Dracula is that bat that she's randomly talking to. Like, what are you doing? Who are you talking to? And then Helsing just runs by. He shoves the cross in her face. It's like, what are you doing?
You're right. That is a fun scene, but like, I don't know. Like, at that point, he really should have like gotten up to speed. But it is a fun scene, though. I'll give you that.
That's what I'm saying. It's the only scene that actually does something in the movie. Everything else is like he's like, no vampires. He's Count Dracula.
Yeah, I mean, and then as far as Nina goes, like, it's an interesting story, and I honestly feel like the character of Nina Harker is done better elsewhere. But she just really doesn't have a lot of agency here. What do you think?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Mina is she's just the damsel in distress, which again, pretty standard for the 30s.
Whereas, like, I feel like the ideal Nina Harker, as far as like how you characterize her, is someone who kind of like sees the danger of Dracula, but is drawn in by him anyways.
Like her best scene,
where it's like she's almost like seduced by Dracula, and not just like an innocent victim in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like the scene that I think sums it up, and she doesn't even say anything in the scene, but it sums it up best is, and again, we shot it better in a Spanish version, I know, but still, even in the one we have, it's still pretty well shot. It's the same idea. They shot it with a little bit more pizzazz. Anyway, so. After they have a scene where she walks outside, and basically Dracula's just kind of standing there outside in the darkness, really kind of well shadowed, and he opens his cape and she just walks into the cape and he really drops it on.
Yeah.
Like she's compelled to kind of like she's drawn to Dracula and she doesn't know why. I
just feel like if she would have had a little bit more agency of like she is making the choice to actively engage with him, I feel like it would have been a little bit more engaging.
Yeah,
and less damsel in distress.
And I mean, the problem is like we do some interesting stuff with her, but we don't really. Again, we're a little vague on the details. For example, we have this big moment where, hey, women are feeding on children. They're biting children and they're dying in the streets, which presumably is Mina doing this. So, I mean, that said, and again, that leads to the kind of the question of, like, is this truth or is Renfield, is he telling the truth or is he just crazy? All this sort of stuff. So it's the idea of, like, evil spreading like a virus through others. And also there's the religious component, too, with the cross and everything.
Honestly, Dragon, the spreading component, like, It really is interesting because I feel like with vampires, like this early on in the vampire lore, I almost feel like there's something of a zombie role with the vampire thing that kind of gets lost as modern day vampires kind of get interpreted. What do you think?
Well, I think you're right.
I feel like the spread of it is a lot more rapid in this one than we have in other vampire lore as vampire lore gets more modernized.
Oh, for sure. I mean, yeah, that's the vampires very much were the original zombie, just a lot more put together. Just like, it's the classy zombie. It's like, yeah, we're not rotting, and basically the vampires have like 3 options: hypnotize.
Dragon, we need the sexy zombie.
Well, we've had that with iZombie.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah,
I've
that's
never
what I'm
watched
saying.
that show, but I'll take your word on it.
I think you'd really like iZombie, by the way. I think it's still on Netflix.
Yeah, you've pitched it to me before.
Yeah. Anyway, so what was I getting at? All right. So that's what I'm saying. The we have like kind of the cleaned up zombie, and you have like options with the vampire. You either hypnotize, you drain, which is like in the more gory version of it, like you tear up the neck and everything. What's the trachea? You tear up the trachea and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Or again, then you just do like a little love nip where you're undead too. I've spread the virus, and it's the zombie version. Like, hey, you have options. The vampire, you had options. Zombie, it's a wonder. Basically, zombies are the streamlined vampire that's just not as cool.
Yeah.
Well, it's not as classy. I would say. Zombies can be cool. Just many times it's a mess. But speaking of some of the vampire tropes, we do get to see a lot of them established here. We have the shape shifting, which impressively is not just limited to bats. We mentioned that Dracula off screen because we don't have the animation yet. It turned into a werewolf.
Okay. I'm glad you brought that up because for me, the single most dated moment in the whole film is Harker. Like I think it's Harker. He's looking out the door and he's look, do you see that? It looks like a giant dog.
Yeah, like a wolf. There's a wolf out there.
I'm like, oh, that is a massive violation of the show don't tell rule.
And again, very play-esque. And speaking of play-esque, kind of performance, and it's weird because I think the play technically did it better from what I heard. So okay, here's the thing. Not the wolf thing. Here's the thing. So one of the classic things with Dracula and with vampires.
If it was a play dragon, I imagine they'd probably just have a wolf howl sound effect or something.
Well, no, sure. I'm talking about something else though. But that one just feels like absolutely. That's like a thing you do in a play where, oh my God, look, there's a wolf that we can't show. Werewolf. Anyway, but no.
By the way, in terms of building a cinematic universe, I do like that werewolves are a factor in this movie.
Yeah, that's cool.
All right.
But the reflection bit is what I'm talking about, where I believe in the play they had I think classically you have like a wall-mounted mirror where he goes by and there's no reflection. Now, and basically Dracula he smashes the mirror, which again seems a little cooler. Here it just really bugged me that it's like a little reflecting box. Really, that's what we're gonna do. It's like the most random thing ever. It's like, hey, look in this box. And it's like slaps it. Like, really? That's how we're gonna do it? We're not just gonna have him like. As I'm used to the thing.
Yeah, I mean, and again, it's like with the visual language of film, you would think that a big old mirror would be the most effective thing, and not just.
We made it so small. Like, hey, we've caught like the angle of this little reflection, and we don't see him. And then, hey, look in the box. Like, really? That's how we're doing this.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yep. Again, Wolfsbane, which we don't talk up. Again, so odd that we don't do garlic, but we do Wolfsbane instead.
Yeah.
And
of course, the morning thing, the nocturnal factor.
Here's a detail we never talk about that I thought was really cool: the Transylvanian dirt. The coffins have to be filled with dirt from Transylvania.
I'm glad you bring that up too. That was a cool detail.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that. That was really
for sure.
It's cool. Oh, what did you think of the staff? The staff who work at the doctor's house.
They didn't leave much of an impression on me.
But they were like the comedy players. Like, you had like Martin, and you had like the nurse.
Oh yeah, right. I don't know, Dragon. They're pretty prototypical, like comedy relief characters. They, like I said, they're not a ton of impression.
Well, I know that, but I'm saying, do you think the comic relief was out of place, or how do you think that's?
No, I don't necessarily think so. I think it was pretty par for the course for the day.
Yeah. And of course, we have like kind of the big Trojan horse reveal with we have that big Trojan horse reveal with Renfield when he's talking about the rats. The whole he promised me rats, rats. I've already done it. And something I heard though, I heard like yeah, he was the. I wish we hit upon this in the movie, but we didn't. It was in like I think it was in the book where he sent him in there because vampires. We never addressed the whole vampires need to be invited in, which basically is the main reason he's in there, so he can invite Dracula in the place, which I think is an ingenious.
I really like that rule. I think it's kind of an underrated rule in vampire lore.
It is, and it's a shame that we weren't able to get it in here because I think it was in the book, but you know. I don't know. I guess it might have been hard. But basically, if we commit the guy, there's no way he could have done that. So I guess that's the choice they made, which makes sense. Like, yeah, we can't have him do that. And he was already kind of invited in with like, hey, we're not suspicious of the Count. Come in here. We don't know. We didn't read the rules. What rules? Van Helsing, he's crazy. Yeah. And again, I've already kind of hit on what kind of the love fest I'm having with the Van Helsing thing is the fact that, you know, so the guy's like, Dragon's been around, and this guy's kind of clever enough to catch on, like, where all these other dummies aren't. He's like, he says like you're smarter than you seem to be, Dr. Van Helsing. Like I don't know, some bits like that kind of. And grab me. Okay, let's see if there's trying to think if there's anything else. Just that 12 minutes, basically that 12 minutes of payoff's all I really got left. Like the end of the movie. Got anything else before we talk about just the ending? So yeah.
All right. So last 12 minutes. Let's get to it.
Yes.
So you know, stuff actually happens, but Jonathan Harker, in Jonathan Harker fashion, kind of ruins it for me, just because he literally just spends the whole finale just running around yelling, "Nina!"
The last 12 minutes,
Nina!
you know, I think this is where you get all your payoff here, where we have kind of an action scene in quotes. We're okay, so you know, Carfax, Carfax, Abbie.
Like it's not quite as bad as Ray, but it's, you know, I don't know, it's just
we're
annoying.
Yeah. I mean, all the action does happen. We're going there. We're chasing Dracula. It's the very classic damsel in distress. You know, it's fair. You know, we have like on one hand, we had like we've had build up to this. You know, we had like that great line from Helsing earlier, like in response to Dracula saying it's too late. He says like I'm going to tear down stone by stone to find your coffin and kill you, essentially, which is really awesome. And we do see that happens. That's really, we made the promise and we keep it. Kind of in that 15 to 20 minute window, I guess, from when he said that. And something that kind of caught me in the movie, just with kind of because I'm pretty sure what happened is I think it's supposed to be a different location, but we just used the exact same set from the earlier castle because, you know, there's a budget.
Oh, yeah, it very much is the exact. You know what's funny about that, Dragon, now that you bring it up, is like Castle Dracula is such an iconic set, right? But, like, we actually are only ever in that location for, what, like 10 minutes?
Yeah, for, like, the open, maybe 15 at most at the top. And I guess, like, more like 15 at the top, I guess 10 in the end.
Like, that always throws me off. No matter how many times I watch this movie, it always throws me off how quickly we leave that castle.
Something that occurred to me about the castle, and I wonder if you might have had this, too. You look at the castle and you're thinking, well, he's a count, he's a rich guy, and the castle, I mean, has such scale and scope, but also it has kind of that ambiance of like, look at all the cobwebs and all the possums and the rats and the random armadillos.
And the armadillos, yeah.
Armadillos going around that place, and yet it's like, you know, why would he keep such a poor castle? You know, why does it look so terrible, so run down? If he comes from wealth and affluence. But here's the thing. Here's what occurred to me. Yeah, he's an immortal. He's bored. You know, everything he's doing, he's just trying to amuse himself. That's why he's going to London and everything. You know, he's ultimately, it's like, if he's lived for so long, why would he clean? Anyone who shows up there, like Renfield, essentially is going to sign their own death warrant. Why would he care what company likes, if company likes the place or not? So it kind of makes sense.
He just doesn't want to put in the extra effort, Dragon. He's got more important things to do.
I just love that he's like bored. It's just Dracula's bored forever.
Bored.
Just kind of bored. He drinks a little blood smoothie, gets a wife or two, and he's out of there. Yeah, and then we just had kind of so Renfield has a really memorable death when he's on the staircase, the iconic staircases. Please don't kill me, I can't die with all the lives I'm taking off my conscience. Real heady stuff.
His stuff kind of comes out of nowhere for me.
Really?
Yeah, a little bit.
I mean, well, here's the thing. So, I mean, he made a deal with Dracula, so by that logic, yeah, it does come out of nowhere, but by the same token, he did kind of lead them to his place, so I guess he's kind of, like...
I guess he does, yeah, but I don't know. It's just like, this guy's, like, been so loyal to you up to this point. It's like, it was an honest mistake.
Also, Dracula doesn't care. That's the other thing, too. Just, I don't like this guy. I use them again. Dracula. That's the scary thing about Dracula in this movie. Is that he's a manipulator. He will use you just to his ends. He won't just like, hey, I'm gonna make a deal with this real estate guy, and I'll use the next guy in town or I come across. Like, no, I'm gonna use the real estate guy. He's got a wife and kids. I don't care.
Fair enough.
But no, you're right. It's sad to see him go over to. I love his last words. I think his last words gave him some impact. If we are going to kill that guy off. Plus, if we like that guy, which we pretty much do in this movie because he's a lot of fun, it's like, oh, we want Dracula to die now. Because we don't care about Mina. Let's be honest, we don't really care that much. She's just, she's the screaming lady in the white dress. That's all we got.
That's what I'm saying, Dragon. It's like the end of the movie rings so hollow for me because it's like it literally ends on a triumphant moment for the two characters we care the least about.
Yeah, but again, really haunting death on Dracula. Like the fact, again, this is like one of those like censorship things that works. Where okay, we don't see the the stake through the heart, but you feel it though when Dracula's screaming. Like
it's funny. I feel like about half of the violence that's censored in this movie really works like that, where it's like kind of just like a cold cut, and the other half is like, oh, okay, that's obviously like a quick cutaway because they didn't want to show the violence.
Yeah, like you know what? I'm like, for example, like, I don't think we need to cut away from every like bite. Okay, we gotta at least see at least one, maybe two bites tops. Like, I'm not saying we rip out tracheas or anything. I'm just saying like you see him make contact with the neck, but we don't do that. We keep cutting away from it for some reason. Yeah. And we end on bells and I presume daylight. Can't tell, but I'm going to assume it's daylight. With the religious connotation, just with the ending, I mean, I kind of, tell me if I'm too off the reservation here. I like to think that we kind of drive home with the ending, just in general with the crosses and everything, is that Dracula is he's the self-involved immortal who has survived for so long by drinking the blood of other people. He's a bit of a god. He's like a twisted version of a god in his own right. He's achieved this through, basically kind of this pervasion of religion. He's just kind of like a perversion of what religion is to kind of like people are worshiping me. I have followers, they're under my control. I manipulate them. No one can.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, less God, more Jesus, but.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying, like a religious component. But yeah, sure,
yeah,
fine, yeah, sure. Like an antichrist.
I'm just saying with the followers.
Sure. I mean, I've heard like there's a bit of a. I hesitate to say this because I know you're gonna love this, but it's a bit of a Mephisto vibe. There's Mephisto. A lot of people point to that. Kind of an antichrist.
Of course.
He shows up in everything. Yeah. But, still. Yeah. I mean, it's a fitting end for again. This is like the first.
I'm going to save your aunt.
Oh God. But yeah, just to linger on at the end here. So yeah, this is the one of the first iconic monster deaths. I mean, like in kind of our cinematic universe of monsters here. This is like the big, okay, we're gonna kill Dracula for the first time.
I think the Frankenstein death is a lot more iconic. But yeah, it's a big one.
Baby steps, Tiki. We gotta get there. We gotta walk before we can run.
Sure.
Yeah. We can't all be the windmill.
Here's the thing, Dragon. I feel like conceptually the death really works. I just feel like, of course, visually, I still don't really think it's that. I don't know.
Of course not visually. It's all in the auditory in this case. Yeah, and that's all she wrote on our favorite bloodsucker.
All right, and we're not going to do final thoughts this time around. Just check in.
I mean, unless you really want to.
I mean, not really. I just want to make sure that people understand that I am nitpicking the hell out of this movie, but it is obviously a seminal hallmark. It's literally like history on celluloid. It's like you can never take that away from it. And obviously, the 2 or 3 main performances really have an impact, especially Lugosi and Dwight Frye. But
there's nothing taking out the performances of this movie. That's what's making this movie truly iconic. Let's face it. We craft the Dracula performance. You can't take away from that.
Sure. Right, well, I think that's it.
Yeah.
All right, folks, that's the end of tonight's spooky selection, and our spirits grow weary. But they'll be stronger than ever next time as we engage in even more haunted holiday hijinks.
Blah, blah, blah.
Rats, I tell ya! Rats!
Rats!